Hey, it's that card girl, and today we're going to be taking a look at the One Piece card game's starter deck 32. This is the green Roronoa Zoro starter deck. It lets you know on both sides of the box as well that this is SP32, and it says it in green, so you know it's green. On the back of the box, it gives you sort of a basic breakdown of what all comes inside the deck, meaning it lets you know how many of each card's rarity is going to be inside the box. But let's go ahead and get this opened up so we can see what exact cards are in the SP32 starter deck. Tucked away on the bottom of this insert, we have our quick start guide / playmat, and then nestled on top we have our starter deck brick, and underneath we have our pack of OP16, the Time of Battle. And like I mentioned in our ST31 video, we're actually going to be setting all of those OP16 packs aside and opening them up as a pack smash once we're done opening all of these starter decks and taking a look at them. And speaking of taking a look at starter decks, let's go ahead and take a closer look at our Roronoa Zoro starter deck. We have our deck sandwich with the leader on top and Dawn cards in the bottom, wrapped up all nicely in this almost impossible to open up plastic wrap. Now that I've finally got this deck sandwich free though, let's see what all cards come inside this starter deck. Starting with our green 5 life, 5000 power leader Roronoa Zoro with the slash attribute. Then we get 2 copies of the 5 cost 6k power Kozuki Odin with a 1k counter and the slash attribute. 2 copies of the 6 cost 7k power Dracul Mihawk with the slash attribute. 4 copies of the 1 cost 2k power Kinemon with a 1k counter and the slash attribute. 4 copies of the 4 cost 5k power Silver's Raleigh with a 1k counter and the slash attribute. 2 copies of the 1 cost 2k power Zoro with a 2k counter and the slash attribute. 4 copies of the 4 cost 5k power Perona with a 1k counter and the special attribute. 4 copies of the 5 cost 6k power Kawamatsu with a 2k counter and the slash attribute. 4 copies of the 4 cost 1k power Kuina with a 1k counter and the slash attribute. 4 copies of the 2 cost 1k power Kushiru with a 1k counter and the slash attribute. 4 copies of the 1 cost no power Kozuki Hayuri with a 1k counter and the wisdom attribute. 4 copies of the 5 cost 7k power Tashigi with the slash attribute. 4 copies of the 6 cost 8k power Ryuma with the slash attribute. 4 copies of the 5 cost 5k power X Drake with a 2k counter and the slash attribute. Then we have 4 copies of the 3 cost event Luffy is the man who will become the king of pirates. And of course our 10 Dawn cards to round it all out. Now that we know what all cards come inside of this starter deck though, what exactly do all of these cards do? Well, let's start by talking about our leader, Roronoa Zoro, who started his life off in OP12. Once per turn during your main phase, if you have 3 Dawn cards attached to this leader, after it battles an opponent's character, you get to set it as active, and then you can attack with it again as long as that opponent's character that you're attacking has a base cost of 8 or more. So you're going to want to attack a lower cost character first and then a higher cost character with this leader. Especially because with 3 Dawn attached, this leader becomes 8k power. And by the way, you don't have to attach all 3 of those Dawn at the same time to get this leader's effect. Next up, we have our 2 SRs, which are new to this deck. We'll start with the Kozuki Odin, who whenever you play him lets you draw a card and then it makes it to where a base cost 6 or less character of your opponent's cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So if your opponent can't rest a character, that means they can't attack with it or get any of the effects that require it being rested. And to top it off, you get to draw a card. And speaking of resting characters and drawing cards, our Draco Mihawk SR, whenever it's your turn and he becomes rested, lets you draw a card and then trash a card from your hand. And whenever you play this Draco Mihawk, since our leader has the slash attribute, you get to play a 5 cost or less character that is either Perona or has the slash attribute out of your hand. I know we usually don't mention what attribute a card has, but it's actually pretty important in this deck. Then we have another card that's new to this starter deck. Kinemon lets you rest either your leader or a Dawn card whenever you play him to be able to draw 2 cards and then trash 1 card from your hand. Our 1-cost Zoro lets you rest a 2-cost or less character of your opponent's since our leader has the slash attribute whenever you play this card. And speaking of whenever you play this card, you can attack a character on the turn that you play this card since it is a rush character card. Silver's Raleigh is also a rush character card since our leader has the slash attribute, and whenever you play him, you get to rest 2 of your opponent's 2-cost or less characters as well. Now, those 5 cards we just talked about are the only new cards for this starter deck. The next 6 cards we're talking about all come from OP12 originally, which is where our leader came from as well. We're going to go ahead and start with Tashigi though, who whenever you play lets you rest a base cost 6 or less character of your opponent, and then you get to give your leader 3 rested Dawn. Which, hey, that 3 rested Dawn will let you activate your leader's main phase effect. Then we have our 1-cost no power Kazuki, who is a searcher card so long as you rest one of your Dawn cards and this character as well. You'll get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal either a green event or a slash attribute card to put in your hand, and then put the rest of the cards in the bottom of your deck in any order. And then we have Quina, which lets you rest one of your opponent's base cost 4 or less characters and then give 3 of your rested Dawn cards to your leader so long as you rest this character. And that's another easy way to get those 3 Dawn cards onto your leader. Then we have Koshiro, who is a blocker and also has the effect that makes it to where you get to rest a 5 cost or less slash attribute character that would otherwise be KO'd by your opponent's effect. Our 3-cost event is pretty simple and it has the main phase effect that just lets you set your leader as active. If you draw this card from your life and want to use its trigger, it lets you give your leader or one of your characters an extra 1000 power for the turn. Then we of course have Kawamatsu, who is just a basic card. Cute, but basic. Perona here started off in OP10 and lets you set one of your Dawn cards per active once per turn during your turn so long as a character has been rested by your effect. X-Drake started off in a starter deck 24 and whenever you play this card, you get to rest one of your opponent's 5 cost or less characters and then set one of your Dawn cards as active at the end of your turn. Ryuma, which started off in OP15, lets you KO one of your opponent's 4 cost or less rested characters whenever you play this card and whenever you attack with it. Now, this leader was a reprinted leader, and this starter deck comes with quite a few cards from the original set this leader was from, but it does have 5 new cards for the starter deck. But what cards could you use to upgrade this deck? There are a lot of cards you could use, but we're going to talk about just a few of them, starting with the 4-cost 5k power 1k counter Zoro from OP13. Whenever you play this card, you get to set 2 of your Dawns as active since our leader is Straw Hat Crew type, and then at the end of your turn, you get to set this Zoro as active. It'll be a fun card to attack with knowing it won't be open to attacks on your opponent's turn. Then there's the 6-cost 6k power Trafalgar Law from OP13 as well. If you're down to your last life or no life at all, it's a blocker. If you put one of your cards from the field back into your hand when you play this law, you get to play a 5 cost or less character rested. So it'll be a really fun combination to use the Zoro and Law together. You can play the Zoro, set your 2 Dawn cards as active, and then play the Trafalgar Law. Use the Trafalgar Law to put the Zoro back in your hand and then back out on the field to be able to get 2 more Dawn cards unrested. and then you can attack with the Zoro and then have it unrested as well. Next up, we have this green East Blue 3-cost 2k power 2k counter card from OP12, whose name I am not even going to try to butcher, so I'll just let you know it's card number 29 from OP12. When you play it, you rest a 2-cost or less character of your opponent's and then KO a rested base cost 1 or less character of your opponent. Roronoa here is a 1-cost 2k power 1k counter SR from OP12. She is a searcher, letting you look at the top 5 cards and then revealing and adding to your hand a green event or / attribute card. Now, if that sounds a bit familiar, it's pretty much the same thing that Kozuki does, and ironically enough, every card that comes with a starter deck has / except for Kozuki and Roronoa. Our next SR upgrade option is the 3-cost 4k power 2k counter Tashigi out of OP10, who lets you rest a character of yours that would otherwise be removed by an opponent's effect, so long as it's not a character named Tashigi. The SR Cavendish from EDO1 is 5-cost, has 6000 power, and a 1k counter. When you play this card and when you attack with it, you get to set 2 of your Dawns as active, so long as this is your only character named Cavendish in play, since our leader Zoro is Supernova type along with Straw Hat Crew. Dracul Mihawk is an 8-cost with 8k power blocker out of OP12 who lets you set 4 Dawn cards as active when you play him, with the caveat of no longer being able to play any base cost 7 or more characters for the rest of the turn. Now, let's talk events, starting with OP05's Because the Side of Justice will be whichever side wins. It's a counter card that doesn't cost any Dawn to play, but does have you trash a card from your hand to give a leader or character 3k power more for the battle. Its life draw trigger lets you rest a 4-cost or less character of your opponent. Karmic Punishment is a 1-cost counter from OP07. If you have 2 or less characters in play, you give your leader or character an extra 2k power. If you have 3 or more characters, you give your leader or a character 3k power instead. Its trigger lets you KO a 4-cost or less rested character of your opponent. Then we have the ridiculously long titled Demon Aura 9-sword style Asura Blades Drawn Dead Man's Game out of OP12. It's 1-cost and can be used either as a counter card or during your main phase. However, if you use it during your main phase, it's kind of sort of a 4-cost since you have to rest 3 Dawn in addition to paying its 1-cost to then rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters or Dawn. As a counter, it gives your leader an extra 3k power. Now, that is all of the upgrades we're going to be talking about today. We kept it a bit on the lighter side since this leader originally started in OP12 and has been around for a little bit. But hey, there's a few ideas to get you started. Now, this is where usually in our starter decks we would open up the pack that came with the deck. But as a reminder, we are saving all of the packs from the 6 starter decks that just came out to open up as a short at the end of us putting out all of our starter deck videos. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And as a reminder, we put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays with shorts on Sundays. We focus mainly on One Piece, Pokemon, Gundam, Lorcana, and Magic the Gathering. Make sure you're following us over on Instagram if you haven't already at thatcardgirl.tcg. There's a link for it down in the description. And speaking of links in the description, there's a link to the Discord channel down there as well. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and let that lover of slasher movies in your life know about us. That Card Girl out!